So what's going on, guys? About 10 p.m. here. When I left the shop around 5 or so, I just finished sweeping, dusting, blowing, cleaning as much as possible. You know, it is only primer, but at the same time, you know, the less stuff you can get in your paint, whether it's primer or your base or your clear, the better. So let everything sit and settle. I'm going to go over everything one last time, just make sure that everything is degreased and wipe everything down. I'll probably just use some brake clean and some microfiber and just go over everything, make sure the surfaces are ready. So, you know, there's quite a few little spots that had to be done. You know, you can see here a little bit of spot putty and some fiberglass work here just in some of the corners where there were some stress cracks. There was a pretty good one here that I had to get fixed up. Everything has been sanded down. Used a Scotch pad and or 320 grit in this case. The primer is going to fill any of those sand scratches and any other little tiny imperfections, but the rest is going to be up to me. You know, once that primer is cured, you know, I want it to sit overnight. It is a little cooler in here. It's not too cool to prime, but at the same time, just want to be able to make sure that the primer can sit, it can cure overnight, and then tomorrow I can come back and I will essentially get into the final prepping stages. So everything will end up getting sanded with about a 600 grit, and any little minor imperfections that come up in the primer or that get noticed will get fixed, and from there I'll be able to lay down some base and then some clear, and this kit's going to be ready to get installed. So the kit is going to get painted off the car. It'll be similar to this. I'll most likely have the floor all wet. I actually used a bunch of snow earlier today to kind of wash all the floor down as it melted. So the point of this kit, taking all that time to prep and fit and test fit and test fit again to make sure that everything is perfect, is to make sure that we can paint this kit off the car and that we can easily put it on and potentially take it off if needed. And that way just kind of gives us the most amount of versatility with the kit, whether the car wants that stock appearance or it wants the DECH kit appearance. It's going to have the options to have both. So going to make sure that the car is covered up again. I do need to spray a little bit of primer over on this area where we fixed the scratches from the so-called beer cooler. So I'll make sure to get this area ready as well, spray a little bit of primer on that, and that's about it. You can see some other random wheels here. This is for another project. Not touching these, not Foxbody related. So anyways, gonna get into the final wipe down here, get everything all set up, and then get my primer and everything mixed. So the primer that I'm gonna use is this 5-star Extreme. So it's a high build 2K primer. The high build is really good for filling any imperfections. It's great for blocking out after, and it's white. So like I said before, having the white gel coat, white primer, white base, going to be great if there's any chips or anything like that in the future, so that it's not a different color underneath. So it's just a 2-part. You got your actual primer plus your activator. So we get that mixed up, we'll put it in the gun, and we'll probably do 2 coats, maybe 3, depending. We'll see how it lays down. And like I said, that's going to dry up overnight, and then tomorrow I'll be able to block and sand everything out, make sure everything is smooth with no imperfections, and go from there. So this is a 4-to-1 mixing ratio, so it's pretty easy. Got our little mixing cup here, so 4 parts of this to 1 part activator, and what's it calling for here? 1 to 3 medium wet coats, 10 to 20 minutes flash time in between them. So like I said, whether I do 2 or I do 3, we'll see what happens. So just going to go ahead, get this mixed up, get it in the gun, get my mask on, and start spraying my life away. Alright, so I figured I'd grab the camera on this little intermission after the first coat and share some information, details on what happened. So, you know, everything was mixed, 4:1 ratio, primer to activator, and I started doing a little bit of a spray out on a piece of cardboard just to see, you know, how the fan of the spray and everything else was going, adjusting the pressure, so on and so forth. And I tried a little bit on the inside of a side skirt, and man, the primer was just coming out way too thick. So it is a little cooler in here, and sometimes you got to adjust things for the temperature, for humidity, everything else. So I read a little bit more on the can. They said that you could go ahead and add another part of urethane reducer. So that would thin things out pretty well. So I went ahead and I poured my primer out from the gun, put it back in the mixing cup, added the reducer, and everything turned out really nice. So just letting the primer flash and set up right now, you can already see this part of the side skirt's a little bit dull. You know, it's a little shiny still in some of the light areas, but or some of the areas that are in the light, and that is completely fine. So we're gonna go ahead and let this flash, and because it is cooler temperatures, probably gonna wait that full 20, if not 25 minutes. The coverage that I'm getting, I am laying it down pretty heavy, so I am just gonna go with 2 really good medium wet coats. The important thing is we found the recipe and the formula that's gonna work based on our environment. Make sure that we have enough for that second coat. We'll perfect it, let it sit overnight, and everything will be good to go. Already started sanding down just the few little attention areas that came to light once you put that primer down. It's amazing how many little imperfections that you can see, but that's sort of the idea of putting it down. So you can see this corner here, don't even know how I missed it, but it was a super high spot. So got that all cleaned up, and there's a couple little pinholes, things like that I'm going to go over with a little bit of spot putty and get things perfect before we put some base and, more importantly, that clear down, because that's when everything is just going to sink down, and if you don't have it perfect, well, you're going to see it when that final product is done. So going to go ahead, get some spot putty mixed up, give attention to those few spots. Everything will get prepped, sanded down up to 600 grit, and then from there we'll be ready for final wipe downs, cleanups, everything else. Welcome back. Here we are getting ready to spray. It is Monday. I was hoping to do this Friday night, and I sprayed out a little test panel with the paint that I got mixed up, and it was actually a shade off. It had more yellow in it. So I was pretty frustrated because I wanted to do the kit on a Friday night, you know, give it all weekend, let it cure up, everything else. And here I was Friday night, and I had the wrong color white. So I took the gas door off of the car, and I went in first thing this morning, got them to scan it, and it came back Oxford white, same year range, same everything else, but it was a different variant. So really important tip, guys, is that even though there's a paint code, that paint code actually might have different variants to it, and it will be a shade, sometimes 2 shades off, especially metallic paints. You know, they could have more reds, more greens, more blues, all of those things. But in this case, the white actually had more black and more yellow. So I got the right paint. I did a little test run this morning, and everything looked really, really good. I even went as far as spraying the hardware for the kit down with some of the base, as you can see right here. So that'll get another coat when I'm doing the body kit, and that's going to get cleared as well, just so that way the fasteners and everything are going to match. So I've gone over the kit again, made sure that there's no imperfections, and everything is looking really good. I got everything set up the way that I want in order to spray, to give myself a lot of room to walk around without bumping into other pieces. And gonna get some water down on the floor here and make sure that as much dust can stay down as possible. The other thing that's really important is that, although clearing is easier, or painting for that matter, is easier on a flat surface like right here, the problem is when you're not in a booth, that's just asking for some dust to land and set in there. So I've tried to position everything on a little bit of an angle. Side skirts I can actually turn a little bit more on the stand as well. So I might actually end up tweaking them a little bit more like this, so that way just less likelihood of dust getting in there. That's why the bumper, rear bumper, this is the underside. So if a couple little bits of dust land in here, that's not the end of the world. I want to make sure that all the areas that are going to be in high visibility are going to be okay and not have too much dust or anything else in there. I do need a booth. I'd love to have one. We'll get there. It's all one of those things. So right now, it's just blowing, sweeping, everything. I did all of that for probably the better half of almost an hour just to make sure that there is as little bit of dust and debris as possible, especially when you're spraying downward towards the floor. It just naturally wants to blow dirt and debris up. So this has all been scuffed down with 600. I used a purple Scotch pad, in the little grooves and the edges, like in the Dutch letters and everything else. So in terms of sanding, everything is prepped. All I'm going to do now is wipe things down with degreaser, make sure that it's all clean, mix the paint, and then we'll get the base down, mix our clear, and then we'll get the clear down. And this is going to be in a position to set up overnight, so that when we come back, should be all shiny and white, and one step closer to getting mounted onto the car. So going over to our quarter panel here, everything is all fixed, no more scratches. I have one coat of base down here. This was part of the area that I was testing out just to make sure that everything matches where it looks like it is. So I will do my second and last coat of base on top of that, and then we will blend in with the clear. All right guys, so water is going to dry up real quick, but again, it is going to create a bit of a paste, and it's just going to keep that dust down, because especially around here when I'm painting, it's going to be blowing some air downward, and I just want to make sure that's not blowing dust back up. And that's about it in terms of final prep. Going to go ahead now and mix up our paint, come back, and we'll be laying down some base. So there we go, guys. Got all our clear on. Everything is looking nice. Oh, she's a cold one in Canada this morning, folks. Thank God for a heated shop, but just being outside and coming on in is enough. Need to get back to the shop in Texas. My friend Charles the other day sent me a video of him going out and moving all the cars around, taking them for a little bit of a drive, keeping the fluids and everything else moving. And man, I just can't wait to get back down there. It's going to be a little short video feature on him and taking some of the cars out. Give you guys a little bit of an update on the Texas location. Anyways, as you can see behind me here, our clear has dried up and everything is looking real nice. Really happy with the way that everything turned out here. There's a few little things in the clear here that I'll have to polish out, but otherwise everything laid down really nice and looks real good. So it's finally that time to get this kit bolted on the car and see how it looks. So I am going to be using a little bit of two-way tape just along the backside here on the underside, just to make sure that there's no vibrations or anything like that of the rear skirt, against the rear bumper, anything that's going to potentially scratch this original paint on the underside. So number one thing that's really important that you do beforehand is make sure your surfaces are all clean. You know, I've gone ahead and used some wax and grease remover, put some brake clean on there. Everything is nice and clean, especially on the front bumper. There was tons of like bugs, I swear, from 1990 on there. So I wanted to get them all clean and all wiped off so that the mounting surface is super, super nice under there. And wouldn't be anything worse than, you know, if you did take the kit off and there was nothing but a bunch of dirt and debris back there. So gonna get everything prepped and ready here and start putting on this DECH kit. All right, guys, here is the completed 1990, now known as a DECH Coupe, not just your plain Jane LX Coupe. So the car came out amazing. It's sitting back down on the ground, just getting everything cleaned up before it goes away into storage. And then from there, it's going to be going down to Florida. So you can see the quarter panel where those scratches were, they are gone. Everything is blended, looks beautiful. The kit turned out amazing in terms of its overall fit and finish. I'm super happy with the way that this car turned out, as you can see. So I'm hoping that, you know, the owner is going to be just as excited when he receives it because he's never seen the car in person. It's one of those things where I really try and exceed people's expectations just because, you know, things aren't always perfect, especially when you're talking about a 30-year-old car. But I know how amazing this car looks on camera, you know, but it does look really, really good in person as well. So the next steps for the owner is going to be getting the suspension addressed. This thing needs to get out of 4x4 mode, needs to be lower, you know, needs a wheel change for sure. Not a fan. At least the wheels are black. It kind of goes with the whole black and white theme. He will be addressing the quarter windows, all the trim and the moldings, and he's going to be doing the kind of the detail and all of those little, you know, pride little passion projects that you take when you own a vehicle. You want to wash it and wax it and detail it and do all those things yourself. So after finishing this guy, it's really motivating me to want to work on the other white DECH Coupe that's sitting here in the back. Talk about a neglected project. Look at the amount of dust on this thing. It's all right. The car is going to get a full respray, but there's a question for you guys. What do you like better? Do you like the moldings all white, or do you like the black molding? Black molding, I used to hate it, despise it when I was younger. I was just like, make it body color. But I gotta say, ever since I got the 91 Wild Strawberry hatch with the black molding, kind of like it. Kind of splits the car up a little bit, but needless to say, all white looks good as well. Just, you know, why can't I have them both, right? Just one with a black stripe, one without one.